The next menu we will look at is the Linework menu. So we will go to Create and Linework. The Linework menu can draw lines, radiuses, or segment lines. You'll notice in many screens in FieldLink there are extra options at the bottom left-hand side that we must click to perform the correct function that we want. So with our line option clicked, we can simply touch 2 points and we can hit Create. We could also continue clicking on multiple points to create multiple lines at the same time. However, here, it's just creating lines on top of my already drawn lines. I'll hit the Clear button to get rid of that. Let's create one more line. The next option at the bottom left is the Radius feature. If I click the top 2 points on my box, it will draw me a radius. That radius can be defined in our Input Form button at the bottom. Let's say we want a 27-foot radius. We can input that, and now we have a 27-foot radius. Also notice that it's giving us the midpoint of the line as well as that radius point of the line. If we want to move which side this radius is on, we can play with the 2 buttons at the bottom of the screen. Firstly, the button on the right will flip that radius from side to side. The other button will draw the short chord of the radius versus the long chord of the radius. And again, I can flip that from side to side. It's still giving us that midpoint and the radius point in the middle. Let's draw the short chord right at the top of the box here, and I'm going to hit Create. Also important to note that to draw a radius, the 2 points must be on the same elevation. I can click my Info button and check that just to show you. This corner is on 0 feet, and this corner is on 0 feet. If they were at different elevations, we would get a message that would pop up and not allow us to create that radius. It would tell us that FieldLink cannot create 3D arcs. So the problem is that they are on different elevations, and the resolution would be to go to Point Manager and put them on the same elevation. The last option in our Linework menu is our line segmentation tool. I can click on a line, and I can give it a value of how to segment that line. We can either put in a specific length, let's say 5 feet, and get out of our Edit button. Now notice that we have 5 equal segments of this line. If we would put in something odd, let's say 12 feet, because our line is 25 feet long, notice it's making a 12-foot segment here, a 12-foot segment here, and it has a 1-foot segment left over at the bottom. If we need that line segmented like that, notice that we can change this remainder at the end depending on which side we need to start from with our circle button at the bottom. If I click that, now we have 2 12-foot segments on the south side and our 1-foot segment at the top. Let's go back into our Edit button before we create that. The other option we have is to choose segment length versus number of segments. So this number of segments option will create equal lengths on that line regardless of what the dimension is. So let's say we put in 4 here. Now it will create 1, 2, 3, 4 equal segments. Let's hit Create. We can then check our work and see what those segments are with our ruler tool at the top. So it created 6 foot 3 inch equal sections along that line. And now, with a quick edit in for the FieldLink release of 2025.1, we have a new option at the bottom of our Linework menu, which will offset a line directly. If I click on a line, I can now come into my Input Form button and tell it what offset I would like. Let's use 1 foot. Interval, let's change it to 5. Once we get out of our editing button, notice that it is going to offset 5 lines from my selected line. Again, I can switch this from either side or to both sides of the line. I can also define my own line to offset by clicking 2 points and doing it in the same manner. So now I have 5 lines offset 1 foot every time, each side of this line, and I can hit Create. It creates the points on either side parallel to my selected line, as well as the line work in the middle. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for the next FieldLink tutorial.